All right, welcome to my podcast Stronger Than You Think. Today I have guest. I didn't even ask you how to say your name. Is it you say your name?
DeLisa.
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 Okay, DeLisa. And we met through a common friend, Stacy Lauren, who has challenged us to do all sorts of crazy stuff, dares us all the time to do stuff. And DeLisa, is that right again?
DeLisa, or you can even call me Lisa, it's fine.
Okay, DeLisa or Lisa and I both are crazy enough to accept. She says, I dare you to do it. And we say, let's go. So I'm going to have her go ahead and introduce herself a little bit and tell us a little bit about herself. So go ahead. Let us know something about you that you'd like to share.
My name is DeLisa Seals, and I just turned 50 this year. Woo woo.
Happy birthday.
And well, and then I'm a head clerk in the library here in town. I grew up in Youngstown, just moved to this small town like 6 years ago. So and then I just wrote my book. I self-published my book, Clearing the Room. It's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble website, but it's on Amazon Kindle and Amazon Kindle. And I'm working on my one woman play, Homage, about my grandma.
Awesome. Okay, so I took a couple notes immediately. This is so cool. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your book, Clearing the Room, and then we'll talk about your play that you're writing? So tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, Clearing the Room is a book of poetry. I've always written poetry, did poetry slams, did all that kind of stuff. Um, and just joined like a storytelling group like 3 years ago to tell a little 8-minute story about myself, trying to build up my confidence again. It's just my journey of learning to love myself, and not just love myself, but like myself, to like my own company again. So uh, it's really interesting because it's the poetry and the book has always been like in my laptop, but I know it wouldn't have ended the way that it did, where I finally got back into um, my whole center of finding God again, knowing He was always there, knowing that He was always orchestrating my life. And I have a poem about the daddy who stayed. So He's always been there with me, knowing He was always close. And finally, I'm back to the place where I'm more sure about myself. And because during the COVID, um, it was like I was 2 years into another abusive relationship, and getting out of that relationship, and was my son and I, and staying in a hotel until I could find us an apartment. And um, so I was going to school and he was in school. I had a 12-year-old in school. So I was student and teacher at the same time, and had to start all over again. But this journey has really helped me heal. And that's why I'm just like, I'm here now in a better space.
Well, that's incredible. Geez, you skimmed over so many things that are, I mean, you say it like, well, I mean, that's what happened, but that's a lot getting out. You said of another abusive relationship in the middle of COVID while you were going to school, 12-year-old son going to school. You were the teacher and the student. Wow,
Yep.
that's
Yeah.
big. And so this book is your journey through poetry of finding yourself again. Wow.
I mean, and my first chapter is love, loss, and everything in between.
Okay.
And when I was reading back, going over through some of my poetry, it's like, boy, I've been through a lot of heartbreak, but it's good for me now because I didn't know who I was at that time. I mean, I was raised up by my grandparents. My mom was in and out of my life. I'm the oldest of four, but having my grandparents in my life, but always searching for something, and I've just kept going in and out of abusive relationships, some harder than the others. Um, just, I mean, being through near death experiences, one after the other. Um, being with my daughter's father. I was 16 years old and I had my first kid. I turned 17 4 days later. And She was born July 1st, I was July 5th. But being with him and almost a 14-year relation, mostly all my teenage years, but being in an abusive relationship, um, physically, emotionally, sexually abusive, everything. And getting to the point where when I was 19 years old, staring down the barrel of a gun, you know what I mean? Um, and the gun jam, like, but didn't know that I was worthy of love or that that was protection. I almost felt like it was punishment to me to be alive,
Oh,
you
really?
know. Oh, it was, I was really in a very bad place. And so it was just one thing after the other, but it was, I mean, when I think about it now, it's just like now I'm not ashamed of it. Like now I can tell my story because even when I got out of the last abusive relationship 4 years ago, I did everything by myself because I'm going to get through this. I'm going to claw out and everything else and start all over all by myself. And I shouldn't have done it that way. But now I'm in a place where now I can ask for help. It's
Okay.
different.
So let me ask you if I can, we will, I promise we'll talk about your play, but the things you're saying are not at all what, I mean, I didn't know what we were going to talk about, but this is, my gosh, are you aware of how incredibly strong you are? Even in, you glaze over all of these things that are so big and intense. Like, are you aware that you're incredible?
Well, thank you for saying that. I didn't at first because my grandmother made me strong. Like I
Mm,
always hated the fact that I was sensitive. I hated that about myself. That the stuff my mother, because I went through a physical abusive relationship with my mom that started that. But my grandmother always tried to toughen me up, quote unquote, toughen me up. So I I didn't realize how strong I was. I always would say, "Oh, I'm resilient." And I would get out of an abusive relationship and say, "Oh, I'm healed," only to get back in the same situation. Like, "Oh, I'm better." So I never really, like, if I would say those words, I never really felt the word. If
okay, right.
like
What you were
I would just,
supposed to say, kind of.
yeah, yeah, oh yeah, because I bounced back from that. I'm not with that person anymore, or that kind of thing. But now at this place, when I go back and I think about it, and I'm like, I know in myself that because of who I am now, I would never put myself back in that situations because I love this person too much and I wanted to protect this person now. I want to protect her from that. Then I thought I deserved all of that. Now I know I don't.
Oh, I am so proud of you for getting to that place.
Mhm.
Can tell it was not easy. I mean, I can feel the emotion welling up as you're talking to me. It's pretty intense. Was there ever a moment where it, it seems like there would be a moment where you're like, nope, it stops here. And that seems like that's when it would change, but then it seems like it would go back. So what was the moment or the changing thing where you're like, no, like I'm for reals done with all of this. I am absolutely worthy of love. Did you have a moment like that?
That was during the COVID. That was when I was 45. I finally got it. Like my grandmother said, all this stuff I'm telling you, you won't appreciate till you're 30. It was 45. Uh, so as much as grandma's always been right in my life, I was 45. Um, but I did. I don't know what it was like the light clicked on because this time, because I just thought I was just deserving of that. But I put my son in a bad situation. And that made me feel so guilty. So here I am in a house and I'm protecting him and I put him in a situation. And seeing myself in his eyes, because my other two kids are older. So I said, oh my gosh. And knowing this kid always wanted to protect me and just the things I said, I have to get better for him so that he doesn't see his mother as weak, so he doesn't repeat this behavior or think this behavior is okay at all. So even being in that hotel and then being in this little small apartment. I was in a 1-bedroom apartment for a while, for a whole year actually. Um, that's where I just got to the point where it's like, Lord, what do you want me to do? Like, and going through healing, it's not easy. It's
Yeah.
not easy at all. I mean, I went through a phase of where I took my son 40 minutes to, because I grew up in Youngstown, but I've been in here, to my sister's house. And I had to apologize to my sister afterward because I mean, going through this process, I didn't know if I wanted to be here. I was just sitting there like, okay, am I going to do this or am I going to do that? And I just reached out to somebody because, I just said, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And going through this healing process, it was hard because I tried so hard. I tried alcohol, I tried men, I tried everything to not feel anything and to actually feel things. Oh, it's a scary, scary place. It's a scary place. Mhm.
Yeah, it really is. It takes a lot of bravery to be like, no, I'm actually going to heal, and it's going to be a real healing, not a cover up, right? Not a numbing or a, well, I'll just turn this way and get whatever I need that way, but I'm really going to heal. That it is a really hard thing. So you reached out to your sister and she was able to help?
Yeah, I mean, because it's just like I I never really told anybody what I was going through. Like they've seen me be in bad relationships, everybody, but I've never really said this time because I had moved away. Like I actually moved in with this person. I moved away and I shut myself out and then I allowed this person to shut me out from my family and everything else. So they didn't know exactly what I was going through because when we would come and visit, like my sister would have a barbecue or something. Oh, he
Mm.
was friendly, everything is good. And one time my sister said, "Oh, you found your best friend." And I'm looking at her like, no. Like, no. But I didn't say anything. I
Mm.
never said anything. So when my sister was like, she said, "What's going on?" And my brother, when I had told him, he was so mad at me. Like my brother actually cried and he was so mad at me. He said, "Why didn't you say something?" He said, I would have been, I said, "I know, but I wanted to fix it. I wanted to fix
Yeah.
it." So it did. It helped me because, I actually, like I said, well, a couple of months ago, looked at these poems again, and I was just like, being the perfectionist that I am, it's like, oh, is this book long enough? Or do I really want to put this poetry out there? And I said, nope, I just have to do it because this is part of my process
Mhm.
of, because I have really good people in my life now, but I have people in my life that doesn't even, that just they don't know my story. They don't know my story.
You seem like you just have it all together and nobody knows how hard you had to work to get it all together, huh?
Uh, I'm telling you, it's just like, showing up, like we see, celebrities or something, you say, "Oh, look, they've arrived," but you don't know what they've done to arrive. And right now I'm in so much peace and I haven't dated or anything in 4 years. So it's just like, I'm in a better job, I'm in a better place. And it's like, oh, wow, she just moved to a whole, because I mean, I've had people say, "Oh, you're so brave to move to a whole small town from a big city." And it's just like, I just didn't make a big decision to move here. But it's very interesting the perception that people
Yeah.
have. And it's just like, okay, but that's my marker. I call them my markers. That's my marker to know that I am healing, that I am growing, that I don't look the same as I used to, because I was such an angry and reactive person, and that I would actually wait till things just build up and then I'd blow up on people. I was always drinking or wanting to go party or wanted to and when I see people say, "Oh, I just love talking to you," or "You're so peaceful," I'm like, all right, I'm still doing okay on this journey. I'm doing okay.
That's incredible. That's like a full on 180 from like anger and exploding to people responding with peace. That's so amazing. Well
Yeah.
done. Good job. It's not an easy task. And a lot of times people see it as being far too difficult. So I'm so happy for you and for me, selfishly. We get to meet now because because of where you are, and because of the circles now that we are both in. So I'm grateful that you were able to do that.
Well, thank you, because I would have never done podcasts before or anything like this before. Now I'm opening myself up. Now I'm in yes. Like to be afraid, just do it afraid,
Yeah.
because I have to tell my story in a way that is almost urgent, that I have to tell my story, because if I don't, then my children won't know where they've come from. And now they get to experience my mother in a different way. My grandkids get to experience my mother in a different way. But it's just my story and how I grew up. But yet still now it's like part of the process that now I get to tell it not in an angry way. I don't get to tell it, well, this is what was done to me and I can't stand this person. No, it's more or less of this is what happened to me. This was where I was, and this is where I am now.
And that's what this play is about.
Yeah, about more of what my grandma is that
Okay.
now I get to, it's called homage. And now I get to rewrite the story. I used to say all the time, if anybody would listen, I have mother issues, I have this issue, I have trust issues, I have issue this, every issue I could think of, I had an issue.
Yeah.
But now I talk to myself different. I tell my story different. So now I get to with my grandmother, who is from Mississippi, old school values. I get to retell my story. I get to tell I get to tell the good part, about my childhood and my upbringing and just how great that was and all the lessons that she taught me. So I get to retell my story. I get to take control of it.
Isn't that beautiful? I love that you're doing that, because we get to have that choice, don't we? We get to say, especially with how far that you've come, we get to tell the story of what our day was like, and our day could have been, it depends on how we tell it. It could be the worst day or the best day, depending on where our perspective is. Now, it sounds like you had some pretty honest, terrible days that no amount of perspective was really going to change that. But you got yourself out of that, and instead of focusing now on the issues that you had, now you're focusing on the positivity. And I mean, I can see in your face as you're telling this story, when you talk about, I get to talk about the beautiful lessons I learned and how incredible it was and the beautiful things, like everything about you changes. So it's so cool that you're doing that. Is there a favorite story that you have from your childhood that you're most excited to share?
Oh, well, there's so many stories. My grandmother, it's hard to narrow down with my grandma.
I bet.
Um, but she told me about dating and boys and, you know, find somebody that you could talk to later in life, because you're going to be doing more talking than anything later on. Um, so, like things like that. And I mean, when my grandmother, she always, made sure I didn't isolate myself, because I have to remind myself sometimes to be with people even now. And I was that kid that was really shy, and she always, I mean, kind of cultivated gifts in me that I didn't know that she was trying to put confidence in me about different things and put me in front of people. But she always made sure that, because I read so much. I was this nerdy little kid, so I read a lot. And she would tell people, she would never call me Lisa, she called me Nisa. And she said, well, go ask Nisa, go ask her. And I didn't know she was trying to get me to learn how to talk and stuff, because I was a stutterer. I was a
Oh,
stutterer when I was younger. And it was to the point where it was embarrassing for me too. And it made me even more shocked. And so it was like I had to actually train myself. I actually taught myself how not to stutter.
oh, wow.
And so it's just those little things that she just kind of placed in me to kind of make me more aware of myself, and to kind of say, because you knew, like, you got that kid that's kind of different and kind of like seeing me being standoffish, but she always wanted to try to include me all the time, which was all good.
That's so cool. I love it. I love that you said that she tried to help you with your gifts, so you weren't aware that you could have the gift of speaking and talking to people, but she helped you with that. That's so cool. And then you embraced it. You let her do it. So that's good too.
Well, now she would, now it's like, oh, it makes sense
Right,
now.
right, looking
Then,
back, right? Hindsight.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I see what she was doing now. So if it's okay, well, not if it's okay. I'm going to ask you the question. You can answer it or not, I guess. You said your son was always trying to stand up for you, and that was kind of what helped you to be like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I got to get out of here. Has he seen a change in you? Like, has he said anything or been able to share with you the changes that he's seen?
um, well, he does things in a little. Um, since he's my youngest, he's very, very introspective, and he's an
Okay.
introvert. The
Okay.
thing, and me and him are close. Like he just says whatever's top his head, and I'm address like Joel. Okay, stop. Because he does. I give him that space, but I've actually had to, because I never would have before, because I wasn't never in touch with my feelings. I set him down, and I actually apologized to him. I said, I apologize to you for putting you in that situation. I thought that situation was going to be different, and I thought this was going to be good for us. I mean, like, I actually sat him down, and he said, Mom, it's okay. You actually did what you told me you were going to do. You said we were going to leave, and we left. And
Wow.
I was like, well, because I was carrying all of that, because I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to be so angry with me. He'll never talk to me again. But we never had that relationship even after that. And like I said, it's been 4 years, and we've always, like, I've never seen anything with them that, um, between him and I, that's been kind of a sandpaper kind of moment. He's just, he said, we're okay. And I was just like, okay, I take it as that. But I was so wanting to fix him, and oh my gosh, I hope he's not angry with me. And that never
Right.
happened.
Oh, isn't that cool? So you went in like kind of tail between your legs sort of a thing, like, oh shoot, I'm so sorry for what I've done. And you said you kept your word to me. Wow, what a cool way to receive that. How did that make you feel when he said that?
Oh, I bawled like a baby first.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
and and then he told me, he said, Mom, I never saw you cry before. And I was like, because I know with me, I've always wanted that tough exterior, even around my kids.
Mhm.
So it made me feel relieved that, first of all, being during this healing process, I'm doing the hard stuff. I'm really doing the hard stuff.
Yeah.
And to know that he knew that that wasn't okay. I didn't want him to think that that was okay, but to know that all through that process, I would always protect him from things, but I would always tell him we're a team. Always tell him, I'm getting you out of here. Hey, I went to go see a house today. Every door was closing for everything, but I would come in, and then that morning I did. I told him, I said, wake up, we're leaving today. Because he left and went to work that morning. And I said, we're leaving today. And I laugh about it now, because my one friend, she says, you're so funny. I said, because for a year I had things packed. I had in his closet, and I told him, I promised him that we were leaving. I had containers. There was stuff in the dining room, and my ex would come by and say, well, what's that stuff? I said, I'm leaving you. Like, I would tell him every time he would ask me, I said, oh, that stuff was packed because I'm leaving. And he would be looking at me like I'm crazy, because after, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, I'm
Yeah.
still there. No, I'm preparing to leave. I'm letting you know that I'm leaving. But I wanted my son to know also that we were leaving. But it was just a healing moment. And I said, this is who I am now, because back then I wouldn't have done that. And I know my other children have seen other things, and it started a domino effect to where I told my other children, I had to call them. My oldest, my daughter is 33 now. My other son is 29. I called them, and I apologized to them the way I raised them. I had to and what I knew, what I didn't know. And, I was always in survival mode and raising them. And I just wanted them to be great people and trying to make them rough and tough and hustle and do all this stuff. And no, and I'm in a better place. So now even I'm a better mother to them now, and they see it.
Maya Angelou said, we do the best that we can with what we know. And then when we know better, we do better. And it sounds like that's exactly what you did. What you knew was hustle, what you knew was hard, what you knew was be tough. So you're like, well, I guess that's what it is. So that's how I raise you. And then when you realized and you learned and you knew better and you started that healing process and you said, no, there's something better out here. I'm going to do better. And that is just, it sounds simple when we're talking. It sounds easy when we're staring at each other on a computer screen. But man, when you're in real life and you're faced
Mhm.
with tough decisions, it is not easy. So like I applaud you for what you have done. That is such a big change to stop a cycle of abuse, to stop any cycles of, I mean, hurt people hurt. They just
Mhm.
do. They don't know what else to do. And you broke that cycle and you got out and you told your son, we are out of here, and you did it. You left, even though you've been preparing for a year, you did it. Do you allow yourself to like kind of, pat yourself on the back and say, I made this change, even though it was hard. Do you do that?
I don't as much as I think I should. That's part of my healing process too. I can go from one thing to the next, and
Mm,
I need to start celebrating every victory because even, you know, um, I'm going to be selling my book, like in a couple of weeks, and people say, "Congratulations, you wrote a book." I'm like, "Yeah," and that's it. Like, like, yeah, like it hasn't sunk in to me yet because it's
yeah.
just like it's just I have to stop making things a thing to check off my list.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and so I don't celebrate those things enough. So when someone, like you tells me, "Oh, that's great," and it's like, you know what, it is, but it's like I need to do that more.
Absolutely. It's interesting because so in what I do, I actually help people to heal. That's one of the main things that I do. And it's so fascinating because it seems like we think, so for example, so with your book, we'll talk about your book. That's easier to talk about, right? You wrote a book before you knew that you could write a book,
Mm,
right? You
mm,
didn't you
yeah,
didn't have the confidence and the knowledge that you could do it when you did it, but you did it anyways. And now because you did it before you were ready, now you know, hey, I could write a book because I did it. And now it feels
yeah,
like it's sort of not a big deal. But while you were doing it, it was a big deal. I mean, you just said that, I don't know if this is too long, if this is too short, do I put this in? Do I leave this out? Like it was all of these questions. But the cool thing is that you did it anyways.
mm,
You didn't
yeah,
wait until everything was ready. I think that's one of the things that Stacy tries to teach us, like don't wait until it's perfect because it's not going to be. One of the things I actually love to talk about, and I giggle often, I don't know if you've ever made pancakes. The first pancake is always bad. It just is. I've never met somebody who's like, no, the first pancake's it's terrible. But you got to get that first pancake out there before you could make the really, really good ones. And I
mm,
think that's even just like when we start. So when you started writing your book, maybe it wasn't amazing, but by the time you finished writing your book, you got into a flow, you understood better what to do. And so now you're writing something else because you do have that confidence that you wrote something before, so I could do it again. It's different, right? It's not a book, now it's a play. It's something different, but you're doing it. So yeah, like celebrate that the
oh,
person who didn't
yay,
know she
okay.
could do it, she did it.
There we go,
So
yay.
yay. I'll clap for you. Hopefully everybody listening is clapping too. And randomly you'll feel like maybe somebody heard my podcast and now I'm being clapped for.
Thank you. I hear the round of applause going on.
Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. I love applause. So
Mhm.
what made you then decide to write this play? Was there a something that you're like, hey, I really want to do this?
I was toying around with it because of the storytelling and, you write a little 8-minute story. So I was like, but just kind of put it away. And then Sean and Do the Big Dream, and Worse with Stacy was like, well, what's the big dream? What would be your big dream? And it came from my heart, not my head, because I just typed in, oh, I'm going to write one woman play about my grandma. And then I was like, oh
Oh,
no,
no.
delete.
No, no, no,
delete.
no, no. Unsend, unsend.
And but it was there, and me now being open to whatever comes. I'm like so open now to being creative, and not beating myself up and changing my self-talk that it did. Writing this for my grandma, which I'm halfway done now, more than halfway, but it put me through another grief process with my grandma, and going to my therapist and sitting there, and she asked me, she said, "Did you ever grieve for your grandma?" And I said, "I don't think I did." Like I just numbed during that time, and whether it was alcohol or something, like I was always just staying busy, and there was so much chaos around that I don't think I did. So instead of numbing this time, I actually went through the grief process with writing, and then asking my sister and family about their stories, and you know and remembering stories I have forgotten. So it's just, it's just really good. I mean, this healing process really is not an easy thing to do, but it's such a necessary thing to do.
Yeah, and I love that it's helping you to uncover things, stories that you had forgotten, and hopefully some of those stories are beautiful that you had forgotten.
No, yeah. I mean, because my grandmother, because we grew up in Youngstown, and Youngstown's a big mafia town. And so my grandmother used to play numbers a lot, and remembering a bookie coming to the house. We remember all that, kind of stuff. Like we lived those kind of moments, and and my grandmother loved to have family over. She cooked big family meals, and um, one time during Thanksgiving, my sister and I watched a television show, and we were like, "Oh, people have duck for Thanksgiving. They don't have turkey. We want duck like the fancy people on TV." And my grandfather was a hunter, so he comes back with this huge duck, and we were like, "Yay, we're gonna have duck." And my sister and I were a year apart, so we were like the two oldest. So my grandmother calls us down, and there's two chairs in the kitchen, and a big hot pot of boiling hot water, and she gives us the stuff to pluck all the feathers off of it for us to have for Thanksgiving dinner. We were like, they didn't do that on TV. But
They came without feathers. What is going on?
but I mean, that was the kind of life lesson she always taught you, and it was just like the most subtle thing. But I mean, the duck was okay, but it's like we'll never having duck ever again.
Oh, I bet. She's like, I know how to fix this.
It's like, okay, yeah. So we bought turkey from that then on out. But I mean, it was just like, I mean, it's so good to focus on the happy and the positive now. It is so good with, instead of always focusing on what I what I didn't have or what I didn't get, or you know, it's so good now that I can go out and get it for myself. Like I was always looking outside of myself to find people to love me, because I never knew growing up that I was to love myself. I've always looked
Well,
for other people to do it. I just like, well, aren't people supposed to do that? Aren't your parents supposed to do that? So now it's like, oh, it's really good to have people around you that you can trust and that actually love you. But it feels really nice to know that I'm not in that deficit anymore. To know that I don't, I was so needy back then. Like I almost kicked myself sometimes. Like, with how needy I was with
wow.
people. Like I needed to hear an affirmation. I needed to hear somebody tell me that I was doing good. I needed to just to be around people, fit in to places. I needed all of that. And I thought I did, but I really didn't need all of that. And it's so good now to know that I don't need it.
Yeah. And that's all come along with the healing journey, is learning that.
Oh, yes. And it's the most freeing thing. It frees you from people. The most freeing thing you can ever do is free yourself from people and free yourself from like the opinions of people.
Yeah.
And I mean, because I my mantra is I thrive in places where it's safe to be me. And if I
Nice.
don't, if I don't feel safe, I mean, I've had people say, "Oh, you're so quiet," and I will tell them because I don't feel safe around you. I'm a
Yeah.
talkative. I'm a talkative person,
Yeah.
and I don't feel and I don't feel ashamed about being a talkative person. I used to
Yeah.
overthink all of that. I used to leave like groups of people. Did I talk too much? Did I say this? Did I not do this? And I don't. I try not to as much.
Yeah.
Be so hard on myself, to not be so cruel to myself, to talk to myself kind, to accept the little times when I do fall down or make a mistake, or sometimes I just say the wrong thing in a situation.
You're not
Know,
perfect. You're human.
right? Like my human is showing. I'm so sorry.
My human is showing. Gotta have that covered up and tucked away. Oh no.
Yeah, you know. But I mean, it is. It's such a good place to be now that I know just what being around untrustworthy people and being around, just chaos. I know what peace looks like and what peace feels like now. And peace can feel boring.
Yeah.
Like I used to say,
Interesting.
oh, I'm bored. I don't have anything to do. And it's not boring. That's peace. I don't have a man coming into the room just to yell because I'm sitting still.
Aw.
Like, why, what are you doing? Why are you haven't done anything all day? Like, I'm watching TV. Like, but
Yeah.
just did not, but that's how my grandmother was. My grandmother was a very quiet person, but if you were sitting still, she would have you clean something or do something. Like I never learned how to sit still, you know. So it's nice now to get a cup of tea and just sit on the porch and just like not do anything. And I'm not bored. This is what peace feels like.
That's wonderful. I love that you can enjoy that. That's I think that that's one of the things that people who practice meditation and yoga hope to eventually be able to achieve, is just that enjoying and that peace and that quietness. I call that beingness. It's when you are where you are and you're in that moment. Like you and I are here together. We're seeing each other, we're feeling each other, and not thinking about groceries or what needs to be done later. Like we can just be here in the moment. And I think it's just so incredible to be able to be there because you feel something different, you see something different, and it's such a different experience. So I love that you're able to feel peace. And it sounds like it's such a big contrast from what you have always felt before, and now you get to
Oh
have it.
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, but it's like you said, it's not. It's hard work. I mean, it really is. I
Mhm.
mean, it's hard work for me sometimes to just turn my brain off sometimes because now that my 18-year-old he's graduated from high school, so now it's more or less, my sister asked me, "What are you going to do with your time?" And of course, I could fill up my time, but that's the whole point of clearing the room. The
Yeah.
clearing the room now, I finally opened up the curtains. I've let space, given myself space. I removed people. I removed clutter from my life that I know I didn't need. I mean, this space only has the things that I need now. And now there's more room for God just to bring in everything else. I don't know what it is. It could be a small table, could be a lamp. I don't know. But I don't have to know those things because I know whatever God brings away is going to be good for me. And I can trust that now. And I just have to accept that, that sometimes, there's going to be obstacles in the way and there's going to be hard stuff. But I know I've gotten through so much other stuff. I've gotten through so much stuff way bigger than what's coming that I know there's better on the other side. That's the one thing I know because I mean, when you're in trouble, when you're in something, that's all I knew is that there's better. I know how to take care of myself. I didn't trust myself to take care of myself before. I don't know when my husband is coming or whatever, but I know I don't have to rely on a man anymore. That's what I was so focused on. Oh, I'm 40. I need to get married. I need to find a man. I need to do this. And I needed all of that. And I don't. And that's what clearing the room, clearing my mind, not changing my focus
Yeah.
on what is more important and most important. And I mean, this book has, helped me in a lot of ways. Like you said, now it's, at first I didn't know I could do it, and now it took me a while. And like I said, it was easy to self-publish this book, but it's just another obstacle, another hurdle for me to get over. But if things aren't scary to us, or if things are easy for us, then it's not what you're supposed to do. Everything big in your life is supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be hard, because you have to know for yourself, I really want this, and what you would do to get it. And now, since this room is clear, I can help my children, I can help my grandchildren, and I can, help other people, because this room is clear. I know how to navigate this room.
That's so good. This room is clear, so now I can do it. And it's I love that you used it like it was a physical thing. Like I've cleared out the clutter, and it was an emotional thing. I am able to trust myself more, and it's a love thing. When I clear out all this stuff, then I'm able to love more. Like you used it in so many different ways. What a cool analogy, because we've all been in a room. It's not like something obscure we can't imagine. And we've been in a cluttered room, and we've been in a tidy room, and we've been in an empty room. We've been in all sorts of rooms. And I love that you're creating a room that is so welcoming and comfortable and loving, and that you're in that room waiting to receive or to give
Yeah,
whatever's needed.
right. Well, and clearing the room too is a tactical move.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning how not to go into things by myself. I'm, I'm learning how to ask for help. I'm learning how to seek out people that will help me. And but when you go in, and even any military goes in to clear a room, they go in with a team,
Mm-hmm.
and they go in and they knock down the doors, and they go in with weapons. And the Bible says our weapons aren't carnal, but mighty through Christ Jesus. I have weapons, and I
Mm-hmm.
can go in and I can yell back and say, this room is clear because I went through it. I swept this room, So it's all, once I started understanding, just, I didn't know I was me. Once I understood this was me, I'm like, wow, I waited so long just to be me and just to find myself. But it's like a really great place to be. I didn't know who I was, but it also, I think it was scary to be myself, because it was just like I was told for so long that being me, something was wrong with me or something,
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Yeah,
like, well, what if I get to this place, and then it's like I won't like myself, or who I'm becoming. And that's not the case. It's not the case. It's really good. I'm meeting such great people. I'm on podcasts. I'm meeting you. I'm doing all this kind of stuff, but I never would have done any of this in the past, and I never would have met any of these people, or had these opportunities, if I just wasn't open to just being myself. And it sounds so simple, but it's just like just being open to being myself.
absolutely. It sounds simple, but it isn't. It isn't simple. We see all these perceived perfections everywhere, and we think that we have to also be this perfect whatever. And it's interesting, because we compare ourselves to this thing that's sort of unattainable often.
Mhm.
But if we look
Mhm.
back and say, wow, look how far I come. Maybe 3 months ago your book wasn't written. 3 months ago you and I weren't talking. 3 months ago we didn't know each other. 3 months ago I
Right.
didn't know Stacy. So
Mhm.
look how far we've come just in those 3 months. We're doing things we didn't know that we could do, and we did them before we were ready. And I'm sure that when you left, I don't know that you felt ready, but you also were ready, because you were like, well, I'm not, there's a line, and the line has been drawn, and I am not staying here anymore. So I'm choosing to move, even though I don't maybe feel ready.
Mhm. And that's what it is. I second guessed myself even that morning because I was like, well, should I leave or should I not go right now? And then I had, all these doubts because it's just like, oh, I'm putting my son out here and there's, somebody, a guy who told me he had an apartment. Then the day before I was going to leave, because I knew he was leaving that morning, and I didn't want to leave with him there with my
Okay.
son because I didn't know what was going to happen.
Mhm.
So the day before I was going to leave, the guy says the apartment wasn't ready and he doesn't know when apartments go. And I said, do you actually have an apartment? Like, what am I going to do? So now
Yeah,
I'm second guessing myself, and I was COVID. There is nothing open. You know what I mean? Like, it was
right.
like, what am I supposed to do? But I did get up that morning. I found a motel. And the guy said, yeah, you can, you know, come on up and you can stay as long as you like, that kind of thing. But I was just like still not telling him, like even with people, because I was still ashamed, not telling them exactly what was going on. It's just like, oh, I just need a place to stay. But I knew I had to leave, but like you said, not ready. And now I have to take my son to a motel. We're door dashing breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or I mean McDonald's. We're doing this for days. And then I felt like a terrible mother, all of that. And I said, no, I have to do that. Like we have to go. And then it was the weirdest thing. There was no U-Hauls. I don't know where everybody was going during COVID, but I couldn't find a U-Haul truck that morning. And I just was like, well, maybe it's not for me because nothing's going right, And I said, no, you can do this. So I had a little hybrid, and I'm packing up clothes and boxes in this hybrid. I came back to this house like 7 or 8 trips. I had to find a storage bin because we were in a motel. So I had only thing I had was our clothes that we could wear because I didn't know how long we were going to be in this motel. And I had no furniture. I had nothing. I had to start all over. So like other stuff, like my son's gaming system and stuff, everything just went into a storage facility. And I found one, but it was just like, it's the whole thing. Like they said, do it messy. I just did it. And then I had to go back to the house because I knew, and the only thing I did, I promised my son I would be back. I had to close that door.
Yeah.
I had to close it. I couldn't just leave and not say anything.
Mhm.
And when I went back, I didn't know what was going to happen. But because, the threats of, oh, I'll just, he would say things like, I'm going to kill myself if we leave, or, I have guns in the house, or stuff like that. He had a lot of mental issues.
Mhm.
But I knew that I had to be done and him to know that I was done. And I did. I went back and I talked to him. He said, well, I didn't know you were going to leave. And, we had this conversation, but I told him I was out, but I don't know if he thought I ever was going to come back, but, but it, it's real interesting too, because I stayed in the same town. God told me like that was my place. I didn't move out. And he's been protecting me for 4 years. I've never had, I've seen him drive around. I think he was looking for me. But I've never heard from him again. I never talked to him again. And I'm telling you, we're no more than 10 minutes from each
Wow.
other. And I mean, that's the kind of grace and protection that God has given me. So that's why I know I can do the hard thing.
Well, good for you for doing that. You said one thing, and I heard everything you said, and you said you felt like a bad mother. Do
Mm.
you know now that you're not a bad mother? Do you know that that was an incredible thing to do for you and your son? Do you know that?
I know that now.
Good.
Yeah, it took me, it just, yeah, so I said, like when I finally got to that, I want to say it took me 7 or 8 months at the time that I did apologize to my son, where I got to that place. But with him and I, just how we are, we're still a team. He's funny. Even with my kids now, and I get to be around my grandkids, it just makes me so much. It's so good now, like like my daughter is like my friend. Like she does. She'll call me. I get to now I'm not was once your kids get to be adults, you're not raising them anymore. You're
Right.
just merely listening to them and you're
Yeah.
just like, Lord, now I have something to pray for. I got something new to pray for because I don't want to lecture. I just have something new to pray for. But but I just love it that they do call me, that I could call them and talk to them. And I just love I finally enjoying being a mother. I think. I think I was so, like I said, in survival mode that now I'm enjoying the journey. I wasn't enjoying the journey so much because I was always trying to find, well, I don't have enough of this, I don't have enough of that. And I thought I had to keep grasping for straws, and I really did, and now I'm enjoying it.
Good. Well, I'm happy to hear that you have found peace and now you're enjoying it and you're learning your self-worth and that you're incredible. And my gosh, it's an hour has flown by. It is just
Wow, I didn't even
flown
notice.
by.
I just happened to look and I didn't know.
I thought maybe, well, we don't know each other. Maybe we'll talk for 20 or 30 minutes. Well, it's an hour. That was incredible. DeLisa, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so excited for this play to come out. I'm so excited about your book. This is so cool. And you said, so you've published it, but it's like, it's coming out, it's almost out, or it is out?
It's on Amazon right now.
Okay.
Look up Clearing the Room is under DeLisa Seals.
Okay.
And um and it's on Amazon Kindle. So it's on there. And I posted my podcast and different videos on Clearing the Room book on Facebook. So I've been documenting my journey, trying to do that. Um, so yeah, but that's on there, and I'll let you know when I'll post it in the Do the Thing community when I finally get on stage for the one woman play.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna clap for you right now. I'm clapping for you already. I'm the first clapper for you, okay?
Well, thank you. I hear it all the way over here. It feels good.
Good. I can see you just feeling it. Oh, that's going to be a good day. Well, it was a great day today. Thank you so much for coming on here and hanging with me and just being so open. I think you know, and I'm going to say it again, but man, you are so much stronger than you probably thought at the time. And you did such big things before you knew you were ready. And I just want to celebrate that for you because you have changed your life and you did it before you were ready. And I am honored to know you now. So thank you for sharing with me. Thank you so much for coming. And I,
Well, thank you for having me here and to share this safe space. It makes it really easy to just share my story because it's such a safe space. So thank you for creating the space.
oh, you're welcome. Thank you for saying that. Well, I hope you have just a fantastic day. And I look forward to hearing more about your journey and hearing more about your one woman play. And I'm going to check out this Clearing the Room book. I'm so excited. So you have a good day. All right.
All
Okay.
right.
Bye.